for tonight's. I want to welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. My name is Roscoe Thompson, and it's my pleasure to introduce our presenter for tonight's webinar. Mr. Kevin Gantos joins us from the Southern California market. He and I met 22 years ago now in this industry. He is a business builder by background, built more than a dozen traditional companies, many successful and some very large million-dollar, multi-million-dollar companies. So he brings a wealth of experience and wisdom here to this industry of network marketing. In our industry here, he's been promoted to the top of several companies' compensation plans, building teams of tens of thousands of people all around the world. And here in Ascend Global Services, he is the president of the company. He and his wife, Mary, have been together now over 40 years, three children that I've had a chance to get to know over the years, three grandchildren that's very important to him. He's also a man of faith, founder of the Diamond Dynasty. If you've heard the Dynasty Vision, you know his passion for global missions and ministry. If you have the chance to work with Kevin Gantos, like I have, you know his heart is to help each of us to succeed so we can reach our goals here in life through this industry of network marketing. We've had a lot of fun building businesses and meeting people and building great relationships for many years now all around the country and now literally around the world. And with that, I want to turn this webinar over to AGS President, Mr. Kevin Gantos.
Thank you, Roscoe. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. It's all yours, my friend.
Fantastic. Well, we got to ask the magical question. I'll tell you, we've been in situations through the years, family, where we're talking, and well, at least we think people are hearing us, but that's not the case. Well, first off, I want to give it back to Mr. Roscoe Thompson, your director of training, an incredible individual, the first regional director in the company. More importantly, beyond that, he has a full life, like most of the people that are on this call, church, family, job. He's a full-time consultant, as well as your director of training, and again, hitting the first position, regional director. And I just want to give a shout out to all of you. I know life's busy, and Roscoe, thank you for bringing me on. I know you're as excited as well as myself, and obviously always bringing something to the family that's going to help benefit them in a financial way. And tonight's going to be just an open conversation. Tonight is an introduction. It's not an announcement about this is already here. This is more of creating some level of awareness. I was on the line with your founder today as well, talking about Nate and, of course, him working on the app and what the timelines are on that. But I didn't want to hold back. I want to be able to let everybody know, create some awareness. I know the field's out there listening and hearing about Bitcoin, and more importantly, beyond that, I can't think of a better group of people. You got Mr. John Marks, the CEO of our company, that is just totally supportive, and I love having him on board, and Mr. Craig Jarbeck, your founder of the company as well. And then, of course, all the regional directors, Earl Miller, Deborah Bain out of the Bahamas, Mr. Roscoe Thompson is a regional director as well, and of course, Mr. Ted Smith. And so those are your regional directors who have been promoted out in the field through the compensation plan. But why is that relevant to tonight is because all of this will add volume to your book of business and, more importantly, instill financial stewardship. That's our goal and objective. But we don't want to come to this dance too early, as I'd like to say, and that's simply because there's companies that have gone before us in this space, both in crypto and direct sales, and have just, haven't gone about it the right way. So I'd rather us be a little bit longer coming to the dance and coming at it the correct way than over there creating some level of enticement or smoke and mirrors. Family, this is a very volatile industry, high risk. Do you know what I mean? You're going to see, and very shortly, there's a lot of money to be made. That is for sure. But there's also, high risk, high return, low risk, low return. So this isn't about, cash out your 401ks and go do that. We are not here to talk about any financial advice whatsoever. This is about creating awareness. We're excited about moving into the space with the technology we're developing. And because of that, we wanted to be able to, people are reaching out, Kevin, I'm hearing about Bitcoin. I'm hearing about Bitcoin. Are we going to be in this space? And of course, we announce we are. And of course, if we say we're going to do something, we do it. And it's always a matter of when we will do it, correct? Because timing is everything. Just as you're going to see here in this, timing was everything as well. And so I'm excited because we're having a guest speaker as well, Jacob Gantos. Yes, he's my son, but he's very familiar with the space. He's been in the banking industry. He's going to share a little bit of that himself for many, many years. His integrity level is through the roof, like Mr. Thompson and of course, your CEO and your founder. That's very key. Your regional directors, and of course, your directors. Literally, Natalie Hall, the Director of Customer Service, Ms. Connie Rees, Director of our nonprofit, Mr. Maui Mendoza, our Director of Asian Development, and of course, none other than yourself truly. And so, if we think about tonight, let's just have fun with this. That's exactly what I want this to be. It's simply about education right now, and we're going to be in such a space that every one of you that are on this call are going to be in an incredible situation to where you can actually monetize this, educate it, and it's like your class of learning. And so we want to bring experts onto the line. It can't be any one person. It's a collaboration of incredible people that are in this space, some that are new to the space, some people have been in the space for a while, and more importantly, we'll roll out the technology. Anything that's generated from this, of course, will drop into unilevels, which allow everybody to make a percentage of what we're doing. This is so I want everybody to understand that our motive is here. So really what I want to do is kind of get started. And before I do that, I want to bring onto the line Jacob Gantos. And he's a compliance specialist with FinTech. He just educated me on what that is, and that's financial technology. But obviously, he's my eldest son, and has a beautiful wife and three beautiful sons, and Levi, Luke, and Leighton. And anyways, I don't want to steal his thunder. We talked a little bit today, and more importantly, we talked with someone in his office as well, Ben, that really understands the space. So we got some pretty neat ideas. This is a way for us to come to the dance, get the field to a place of understanding. Maybe one day we'll be in a position to create our own coin. So imagine that. Imagine being able to be in a place where you can have an AGS coin, and in doing so, be able to have that traded at one day on a secondary market in this space. So those are the things that could be really exciting and why we're even here. But the place to start, of course, is with the right people, the right collaborations, with the highest level of integrity, with no level of enticement. And of course, I can't think of a better person to bring on. And so we're going to kind of have a conversation. I'm going to go through some slides, and I'm going to ask Jacob, of course, where he sees that. And we're just going to basically have that. And you guys have a chance to kind of listen in. And I pretty much have gotten questions from everybody. I've kind of put the slides in place for that so it flows to some extent. Okay, so let's get rolling here. But before I do, I want to bring on to tonight's webinar as well, Mr. Jacob Gantos. Jacob, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you here. And of course, we're going to go right into some of these slides here. Let me do this. I'm going to link this out. Let me do this real quick. Get rid of that menu so it's not in the way of the slides. And of course, what is cryptocurrency, right? And cryptocurrency, of course, is, let me go into this. There we go. The definition: cryptocurrency is an encrypted, decentralized digital currency transferred between peers and confirmed in a public ledger via a process known as mining. You're going to see what that means a little bit. Cryptocurrency is a digital asset designed to work as a medium of exchange that uses cryptography to secure its transactions, to the creation of additional units, and to verify the transfer of assets. That's from Wikipedia. And of course, that all sounds Greek right now, but we're gonna bring this to a place where hopefully everybody has a better level of understanding. So cryptocurrency. Jacob, you want to add to the slide before you do, son? If you could just share with everybody kind of your background and where you're at in this space and why you're excited about it, and of course your relationship with Silvergate out of La Jolla. Why is your CEO bringing on multiple Bitcoin companies? Why is that relevant to this space, and where most banks aren't even doing that? Could you share with the family why that is?
Yes, absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love talking about this space. It's what I do full time at the bank. And I think like all of us, I too wish that I had invested a little bit earlier. But everybody has that same feeling, even those that have been made millionaires within the past, few months to a year. But basically what we do at Silvergate Bank is we really strive to be the bank that crypto related companies choose for their banking services as their banking partner. So just to give you a little bit of background of the bank. So back in 2013, 2014, the CEO of the bank, he got really interested in Bitcoin at the time. It was kind of like the only cryptocurrency that was really known at the time. And I think like a lot of people, the technology really fascinated him. So what he decided to do was begin putting together a team and really just hit the streets and start meeting with some of these people that were leading these companies. And there were really two things that the people found, that the bank found when they started meeting with these people. Number one, they found that these people were not just these little startups that didn't really know what they were doing. These people were ingrained in cryptography and really understood the technology behind it. And they were simply blown away by the caliber of the teams. The second thing that they noticed was that a lot of these companies were getting all of this capital from traditional venture funding and venture capital, and they didn't have anywhere to put the money because banks in 2013, 14, and 15 didn't want to touch cryptocurrency with a 20-foot pole. And so, so we kind of already positioned to get in the space. We saw that as an opportunity and started working with these companies. And so some of the first clients were onboarded, I believe, 2014, 2015. And so that's kind of the beginning of our involvement as a bank into the space. To fast forward a few years, when I started at the bank, March 27th of last year, we had about 40 to 50 clients. And today we have over 120 clients that are directly related to the cryptocurrency space. Our team has more than doubled in people, and we've really built an entire compliance program, and that's kind of where I come in, a compliance program around this department called FinTech, short for financial technology, so that we can bank these companies safely. So we're a regulated bank, state chartered bank and regulated. And so when our regulators come, the first thing we did was say, hey, we want to be really transparent with you guys. And we want to let you know that we're building a compliance program that we feel really good about in order to bank these companies that are related to digital currency, whether they're touching cryptocurrency or not. They're involved in the space, and we want you to know that we're doing everything we can to create a compliance program to safeguard us as a bank. And so from the very beginning, we were very transparent with our regulators. And as a result of that, we've been given the green light. And fast forward, as I mentioned, a couple years later to today, we have a huge market share. And just to kind of end kind of like this piece of the conversation, what we do at the bank, there's pretty much like 3 buckets of types of companies. And this will help you as you're listening to understand, okay, what are the types of companies? What are the types of people that are in this space? And we find that there's like 3 different buckets. And the first bucket of companies that are involved in this space, of course, are the exchanges. So I'm sure some of you have heard of Coinbase, Gemini, Bittrex, or Poloniex, maybe not. Anyway, these are websites, companies that facilitate the purchasing and selling of Bitcoin. So you have those, and then the second group of people, you have like software developers or miners, companies that kind of help support the network and create programs to support it. And then, of course, you have the people that are in it primarily for like an asset class. They're treating Bitcoin as an asset class. And so you have a lot of institutional investors that are wanting to come to the dance, investing literally tens and like honestly hundreds of millions of dollars into the space, into the cryptocurrencies themselves, because they see this as the future of finance and want to get in as soon as they can to make as much money as they can. So you've got your investors, your software developers, and then your typical exchanges. So that kind of sums up what we do at the bank. I simply support the whole compliance program, and that's what I do at the bank.
Fantastic. Well, family, let me give you a little inside story here. and that is on Father's Day, my son decided to give me a gift. This is how this all started, of $50. He said, "Hey, Dad, load this up." I went and got a Coinbase app. He gave me $50 of Bitcoin, and 400% later, I said, "This stuff works," in a 6-month period. And so obviously, it's, you know, when you have that kind of excitement, which we're going to show here in a little bit, you're going to see why we, you know, again, we're not here for financial advice. Nobody is. We're just here to create some level of awareness. But bottom line is, I believe for most people, this needs to be at least part of somebody's portfolio if you're intrigued by any kind of gain. So how did it all begin? Well, November that year, 2009, a link to a paper authored by Satoshi Nakamoto titled "Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system," was posted to a cryptography mailing list. Nakamoto implemented the Bitcoin software as open source code and released it in January 2009 on SourceForge. This is from Bitcoin Wikipedia. And let me tell you what happened. So look what happened. So what has happened to cryptocurrency since 2009? Well, let's just talk about what's happened in the past year, okay? What an incredible year. This is from Motley Fool, okay? So this is their article. What an incredible year it has been for anyone with the right mix of smarts and luck to have invested in cryptocurrencies. At the beginning of the year, last year, according to data from CoinMarketCap.com, the aggregate value of all cryptocurrency combined was $17.7 billion. That in itself is huge. But during the evening of December 12th, just this past December of 2017, the combined value of more than 1,350 virtual currencies, remember Bitcoin is only one of the 1,350 virtual currencies, surpassed 500 billion for the first time ever, 503 billion to be exact. That's a year-to-date increase of more than 2,700%. I think you might understand why Jacobs, CEO of the bank, has got excited, because through the volume, obviously these companies become very, very solid as well. But there's also high volatility as well. So Jacob, you know, based on this growth, would you obviously attribute to what's happening with your space specific to this growth that we're talking about, 2,700%? Yeah.
Right, definitely. And I think part of the reason why you know, it kind of going mainstream has contributed to the growth is simply because you have kind of seen Bitcoin and digital currency as money used by criminals. That's kind of like what everybody used to think, you know, around 2011 and 12. I don't know if anybody has heard of Silk Road, but, you know, in the beginning stages, it really was not looked at as a good thing. And so actually the fact that banks and companies and investors are getting into the space is actually helping to legitimize the space, so that people are not necessarily thinking of, you know, dealing drugs or Silk Road or criminal activity as much as they are thinking about the future of finance at this point. And the reason why people are thinking of it that way is simply because banks and huge financial institutions are starting to invest in it as well, which has really helped to legitimize the space. So I think America in general, and there are some other nations out there that are really wanting to embrace the technology as opposed to kind of being fearful of it. It's when you embrace it and kind of understand how you can utilize it, that really legitimizes the space. And I think there's been some nations, our nation included, that's really helped to kind of embrace and as a result of that legitimize it, which is of course attributed much to the explosive growth that we've seen.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Well, you know, when I think about, again, you know, people always ask the question, you know, how does it work? Well, you know, if I look at this, the network is a peer-to-peer. So a peer-to-peer meaning that if I was doing business with Jacob, right, when Jacob gave me that $50 from his cell phone, this is what's key, from basically he did the transaction on his cell phone, I got set up with the wallet on my cell phone, and in doing so, in real time, instantly I had $50 with minimal fees. And why that's relevant, although we're talking about here in the U.S., it also allows us peer-to-peer can be someone on the other side of the planet. It could be somebody in Zambia. It could be, there's 2.5 billion people in the world that don't have access or are connected to a bank. That's 2.5 billion worth of people that is obviously equated to commerce that now will be able to tap into, providing they have a cell phone. You know, if I'm dealing in the Philippines and the average household income is $460 a month, you know, to open up a checking account in the Philippines, you need $5,000. That's 10 times income, right? So think about it. If you're here in the States, to make that relative, if the average household income is $5,000, for you to open up a checking account in the United States, everything being relative, you would need to have $50,000 to do that. But obviously that limits the space. What this does, it allows us to bypass all that and allow us to go international. So from a company standpoint, family, understand how huge this is. You know, anytime we've gone into an international market, we've only typically been held back because of currency exchange. If we go into Haiti and the average household income is $100 a month, and we go into Haiti, right, again, the issue is they've got to take cash. They got to go make a deposit at a bank. We got to validate that the deposit was made. Then, of course, they get a distributorship, and the list goes on. Here, we accept Bitcoin. The company now embraces Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Someone there can actually use a cell phone, right, and send it in real time, and we're up and running. So peer-to-peer is huge without an intermediary. So intermediary simply means a third party. So if I were to take $100 out of my pocket right now and give it to Jacob, right, there's nobody involved. There's not a third party involved. I gave him $100. He took the $100. Now, if he loses the $100, he lost it. That's not on me. But I was able to do that. These transactions now are verified by network nodes through the use of cryptography and recorded in a public distributed ledger called a blockchain. And Jacob, you want to share a little bit what that intermediary is, and of course the cryptography is what that's all about. You want to share about that?
Yeah, sure. Just a little bit. The more and more you get familiar with the space, the more you realize how dumb you are. And so honestly, there are people that have built this technology. There are cryptographers that know what all of these different words mean. So I'm going to really try and just kind of break it down as simply as possible, because this is probably as much as I understand it, just to be frank. So how does it work? Basically, as my dad said, Bitcoin is purely peer-to-peer, which is huge. If you think about any transaction that you do nowadays, you are using a third party. If you send money to a friend, you're using Venmo, or you're using some sort of financial technology company like a bank. If you want to pay a bill, when you pay a bill on a website, you're not sending that money directly to the company. You're sending that money back end. That money is going from your bank account. It's going to the company's bank account, and then that company is then rerouting it to the company itself. And so we don't even, because we've been so conditioned to trust intermediaries to handle our finances, we don't even think twice about it. But you know, we are blessed to live in a country, to live in a nation where I think we can have a little bit more trust than many other nations can in the financial systems that they're a part of, in the government that they're a part of. So in that way, we're blessed. But at the end of the day, we still are allowing others, organizations that are run by boards, by fallible people, just like you and I, to not only handle, monitor, but ultimately control our finances. And so, you know, we're not here to, you know, revolutionize all of that and say, you know, we need to be in control of our money. As long as we live in a place where we can trust those intermediaries, that's fine. But where I want to go with this is a simple example. And it's a very simple example. If I wanted to send you a message, or if I wanted to text you, I could simply text you and hit send, and it would be in your it would be on your phone instantaneously. If I sent you an email and hit send, it'd be in your inbox instantaneously. Technology has come a far way to allow us to transfer information and other things quickly. However, you and I both know that if I wanted to send you simply $5 electronically, if I wanted to send you $5, I would need to initiate that transaction using my bank account. If I make the cutoff time before 1 or 2 or 3 p.m. Pacific time, that $5 may get sent out the same day. If I send that on a Friday, you're not going to get it until Wednesday or Thursday the next week. And that's for $5. If I wanted to send you 5 cents, it would be the same thing. And so when we trust or when we use or utilize a third party, we're subject to their timing. And so between people like you and I, that's not necessarily a big deal, because you may be able to wait for my $5, for 3 business days, or my $50 that I send you. But when you take this concept and you zoom out a little bit and understand that not only do you and I move money, but businesses that are global businesses that are sending tens of millions of dollars on a quarterly basis, on a semi-annual basis, or an annual basis, not only sending large sums of money, but also having to pay foreign exchange fees, having to wait, and not being able to benefit from the float, that adds up to a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of resources. And so people like you and I, we treat this Bitcoin a lot of times as an investment. But when we look at companies, they look at it very much so as a huge opportunity to cut down on costs and to speed up the transfer of money that they need to get to wherever it needs to go. And so in terms of how does it work, it's really about peer-to-peer without any intermediary, and it's very quick. So for example, if I wanted to send money to $100 million or $20 to a family member in China, and I were to send my Bitcoin or whatever to them, it would literally be there within an hour or two. And that's unprecedented. I mean, there's aside from like a federal wire transfer before the cutoff time, having to pay a $35 fee at least, that's unheard of when it comes to the movement of money. And so in a lot of ways, technology has really sped up. But when you compare the fast-paced technology that we have access to, it kind of seems like the financial industry is kind of still light years behind in terms of speed. And that's the reason why a lot of people believe that digital currency and cryptocurrency is kind of the future of finance, because it solves so many problems.
Thank you so much, Jacob. Well, going to go right in. You see a ledger called a blockchain, right? And so if you look at that, how does it work? Network is peer-to-peer. People say, well, how are Bitcoins produced, right? Bitcoins are systematically produced from something called the blockchain, often called mining. Tech whizzes use highly advanced technology to create new coins. However, Bitcoins can't be created forever. The blockchain was devised so that only 21 million Bitcoins can ever be produced. A lot like gold. There's only so much gold in the world. There's only so much Bitcoin in the world, okay? This makes Bitcoin a finite resource, and so logically, the price can only ever go up as demand increases. So what are these things called? The blockchain, obviously, and mining. These are the two things you're going to hear a lot about, right? So just like gold that is mined, so is this. So mining is the process by which transactions are verified and added to the public ledger, known as the blockchain, and also the means through which new Bitcoin are released. Anyone with access to the internet and suitable hardware can participate in mining. So this is Investopedia. So family, there's businesses out there that legitimately are there just to mine and get paid for mining. So how do they get paid? When they close a transaction and validate it, they are issued Bitcoin fractionally, but they're issued Bitcoin for that. And I would assume, Jacob, that your bank deals with companies that are doing mining. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. And so that's a very big part of this space, correct?
Yes. Yep. So mining, and just kind of put simply, the way I liken it to, and maybe it's just because I've been in banking for a while, but it's just kind of like tellers. So you have tellers that are constantly depositing and withdrawing and validating and processing those transactions. Those transactions are being recorded into our bank's online ledgers systems. And that's what tells the bank how much you have and how much I have and how much everybody has. It's a ledger. And so mining is kind of that same thing, where mining simply is validating the transactions. Every single time a block, which is a group or a bundle of transactions, are validated, it is then added to what's called the blockchain. Blockchain, put simply, is the online ledger that records and supports this whole Bitcoin network. And so it literally is like a checkbook. So if you were to write a check, you would then record it onto your little checkbook register. That's exactly what blockchain is. It's the online ledger that records every single transaction that's ever taken place it's called the Genesis block, from the very beginning, from the very first transaction of Bitcoin that was ever done, I think in 2009 or 2010. That is one block of information, and every single time a transaction is done, it is validated. And so all of these computers and nodes that support this whole network, every single time a new block is mined. Again, a block is a bundle of transactions that's added to the blockchain. What then happens is that the entire blockchain is actually downloaded onto those computers and nodes. And so, not to get too technical, but the power behind this is that this is decentralized, which means that all of the computers and all of the networks that support this, all of them have record of these transactions, which makes it immutable. So if one computer or one node is hacked or taken over or whatever, it doesn't really matter, because you still have 99.99% of all the other computers and networks that are supporting the network saying that these are the transactions that have taken place. And so just a little insight, the blockchain has never, ever been hacked, because you can't hack the blockchain. A lot of people have heard about exchanges being hacked, and that's true. You can hack exchanges, you can rob a bank, you can do all these things, but the blockchain itself cannot be hacked, because it's public from the very beginning. It's a public ledger that is immutable, which is a huge, huge benefit to record keeping, because again, it kind of kicks out the intermediary, which can ultimately, sometimes they can just kind of like, the information sometimes you can lose a lot in translation. And so what I'm saying is, when you have a blockchain, no information can be lost, because there's one source that's decentralized and all the information is recorded on it. And so that's really what mining is. They're just the people that simply validate and put transactions onto the blockchains. That was a little technical. Thank you. So I'll try to keep that a little bit simpler next time.
No, that was good. I mean, the bank teller really simplified it. Checking and balancing, of course, the bank's paying the bank teller, right, to do that, just as the miners get paid to do that. And then, of course, the checkbook register really clarifies it. It means everybody's got a copy of your checkbook register, and so there's nothing to hack, because everybody already has it. So that's great. Well, okay, we're going to move kind of quickly through this. So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a new currency that was created in 2009 by an unknown person or people using the alias Satoshi Nakamoto. And that was derived. You have to understand why that happened. And transactions are made with no middlemen, meaning no banks. That's from CNN Money. But why that's relevant is because why this even came to birth is because of the crisis we had, the financial crisis that we had back in literally 2007, 8, 9, the crash, and then other countries crashing, and basically corporations and governments held those resources. If we think about the story back in Greece, right, the people in Greece that all of a sudden, all their assets were taken out of their checking accounts. The government actually took their money, gone, vaporized. And so for all of a sudden, you know, you still got things that you have to pay, was totally gone to bail out the banks. It's what they call a bail-in. And I know Jacob's aware of that because you're in that space. But family, this is why this was done. It wasn't done because, hey, I just want to be a rebel. It was like this was supposed to be a solution to a problem. Because if everybody, if I have Bitcoin in my wallet or my phone, and it's not through a third party, right? Bitcoin. And Jacob, you can elaborate a little bit on that because there's a Bitcoin wallet that's specific just to Bitcoin without a third party, right? An exchange involved.
Correct.
I would still
Correct.
have my Bitcoin, correct? If the whole world crashed and we decided to agree on Bitcoin and the stores decided to accept Bitcoin, right? Then you and I wouldn't even be affected by that. Is that correct?
Correct. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can elaborate just a little bit on that. So, so the way all of this works, and this is very technical, so I'll keep this very simple. In order to send a certain amount of digital currency, you need what's called a public key and a private key. The private key is private. No one else knows that. The public key literally allows you to unlock the address where the digital currency is held and then allows you access to it so that you can send it to another address. And so what's very cool about that is that you have the private key and you have the public key. So if every bank was shut down, even if every Bitcoin exchange was shut down, as long as you held your money in your own digital wallet, meaning you didn't have your money held at an exchange, but you held it yourself simply by having a public and a private key, none of that money would be lost because you have access to that public and private key. So it's literally like a little treasure chest of money, and it's very hard to like grasp because we know that Bitcoin isn't actually a thing. There is no physical Bitcoin, and all of the news articles and everything that you see on TV, you know, you have these little gold coins with these little bees on them, but like that's not real. Those are not Bitcoins. Those are just images that people created so that you and I can kind of more understand what it is. And so anyways, just to put very simply, Bitcoin, the amount of Bitcoin is literally just a spot on a ledger. And so if the ledger says that Jacob has 25 Bitcoin and I transfer 1 Bitcoin away, the ledger now says that I have 24 Bitcoin. There actually is no real money involved. It's literally just a space on the ledger, which actually makes it much more powerful in a lot of ways. And we don't have time for that, but yeah, let's move on.
Okay, sounds good. So family, in short, to just again, simplify, even more simplify, and that is everybody has an email, right? And you give that out publicly to everybody, right? You can give that out to publicly everybody, but then you have a password, right? If you give the password out, people have access to your emails, right? But if you don't give out the password, it's private. So in the same likeness, your password is your private key. So you don't give that out to people because you don't want people going through your emails, correct? So, I mean, that's the long and short of that. So we're going to go to the next thing, and that is, how is Bitcoin different than normal money? Of course, we already talked about this. The characteristic of Bitcoin and what it specifically differentiates, I can't even talk tonight, from conventional money is that it's decentralized. No one particular institution has complete control over Bitcoin, which we already talked about. So how do I receive or give someone Bitcoin, right? Well, we already talked about that as well, right? As far as privacy goes, a wallet. So we go right into what is a Bitcoin wallet. We pretty much elaborated it on that, unless there's something else you want to add, Jacob. But a collection of private keys, but may also refer to client software used to manage those keys and to make transactions on the Bitcoin network. I think we already covered this pretty well. So we'll move on.
Yep.
So let's look at what's exciting beyond seeing cryptocurrency. This is based on my Coinbase, right? So this is my Coinbase app, which means I have a record and I could go to there on a time basis. So family, we're going to have our own app, so get excited about that Nate's developing, and that's going to be huge. But for right now, I'm using this as a point of reference. Okay, so when I go on there, this is numbers from today. So in the past year or the past 12 months, right? Bitcoin has grown 1,131.76%. I hope you understand what that means. 1,000%. So that means if you spent $1,000 a year ago, you bought $1,000. What's 1,000 times 1,000? Jacob, you know the number, correct? What's 1,000 times 1,000? It's $1 million. It's $1 million. So I mean, family, that's crazy. So that's why you're hearing about the Bitcoin millionaires. If you bought $100 of Bitcoin when it was at 3 cents on May 22nd, 2010, real numbers from CNBC, right? You now be sitting on around 70. I can't even get it out. $75 million.
Yep.
So when the world was crashing, and you said, "Oh, well, I'm going to take $100 and I'm going to invest in this thing called Bitcoin in May 22nd of 2010," and you kept it there, today you would have over $75 million. I know that sounds astronomical, but family, this is why we're excited about it. I mean, opportunities like this doesn't come around very often, right? But again, remember, it's a very volatile business. You know, obviously high risk, high gain, low risk, low gain. So that doesn't change. And I know my son has seen that as well. We'll go right into the next coins. I like these altcoins. So on this Coinbase app, unless there was something you wanted to add to that. I'm sorry, Jacob. Was there something you wanted to add to that slide, the Bitcoin slide?
No. Okay,
okay.
Yeah, no, that's good.
And so I know you like Ethereum, and you can see why you like Ethereum. And you want to share with us a little bit why you're excited about Ethereum beyond obviously the incredible growth of 9,047% in the past year. You want to explain why that's happening for Ethereum?
Yeah. So, well, why it's happening? Yeah, I can explain a little bit about that. So Ethereum. Again, I'm not going to get too technical, but Ethereum is not necessarily a coin like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is literally what's called a store of value, which basically is only it's worth something because people say that it's worth something. Bitcoin, other than that, you can use it to buy pizza or whatever you want, but you can't really use it for anything else. Just like a dollar bill, you can use to buy something. Other than that, you can burn it for some warmth. But other than that, there's really no use case for a paper dollar bill. Ethereum, however, is a type of coin that does have what's called use or utility, and I won't get into that, but it's almost like smart money. And so Ethereum itself is actually a project or a company, and the coin that supports this network or this company and this software program is called Ether. So when you hear people talking about Ether, they're talking about the coin or the fuel or the gas that's worth something that powers Ethereum. Ethereum itself is simply a software, a program that basically creates and executes smart contracts. And that can be very technical, but basically Ethereum itself, the reason why it's grown so much is because as companies want to automate things and processes and even people and all of these different things, companies are using Ethereum, the Ethereum protocol, to help automate different processes and tasks that it needs to get done by building on top of this Ethereum protocol. And that's the reason why this has exploded so much, is because unlike Bitcoin, that is simply considered a store of value, this type of coin actually has some sort of utility other than just purchasing something, but actually has power to execute or do something on a platform. And so that's kind of Ethereum. That's as simple as I can explain it.
Well, thank you. That's excellent. So we're going to roll right into it. Thank you, Jacob. We're going to roll into the next part. Family, you only got a few minutes left here, so we'll wrap this up. We got 14 minutes left, and then we'll that'll conclude the webinar. So we're going to go to the next slide. Let's see if I can get that to do that. Let's do this. And of course, Ripple Ripple, look at this, family, literally 21,000% in the last 12 months. These numbers are so astronomical, and you got to look at it as when the cell phone came into play, right? When internet came into play and all the new technologies came into place. There was a first mover advantage. People had the ability to say, wow, there's something here, and they invested early, you know, just like when there was a Walmart or, you know, Amazon or any of these companies, they all had their first day, they had their first season of growth, and of course, Ripple speaks for itself. I know Jacob talked about Ripple long before I knew about it, and I want him to elaborate on this pretty quickly, but, you know, how can something have 20,000% growth in the last 12 months? Family, I can't even put a number to that. If you put $1,000 in a year ago into Ripple times 21,000%, the number's astronomical. So Jacob, you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so Ripple, I actually don't know a whole lot about, which is surprising because Ripple is the coin that a lot of banks like. But Ripple is just like a coin, but it's considered a medium of exchange, which means kind of like Ethereum and Bitcoin, it's worth something. And so banks are actually wanting to utilize Ripple to help facilitate, from my understanding, the transfer of money faster than what their typical banking systems are capable of, kind of like what we've talked about in the past. And so part of the reason, from my perspective and my understanding, for the growth in this one is because, you know, people have heard, and there's been a lot of news about different banks actually trying to utilize this coin. And when I say banks, I'm talking about banks. If you just Google Ripple and Chase, JP Morgan Chase, you'll see a lot of information about that. And so major banks are thinking about starting the conversation about what it might look like to utilize some of these currencies such as Ripple.
Well, that's amazing, family. Once again, it's basically the suck-up coin. It's sucking up to the banks, and the other coins, of course, are Bitcoin standing out there all by itself in a lot of ways as far as a global, and this is huge. So again, $1,000 invested over a year ago would be 21 million today. Yes, that's the insanity of that. So that's quite a bit of money, and obviously why we're in this space. So get excited about that. Can you buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin? Of course, we're going to have our own app, but this will give you an idea. Coinbase is a secure online platform. This is what my son told me about on Father's Day, and it allowed me to come to the place. It's very user-friendly because when I start talking about using other coins, Ripple, and I think you mentioned something about Tron, and you made a $150 investment that turned into $700 in a week, and all that kind of stuff. You had to go through different exchanges, which was very, very convoluted and complex. And obviously what we want to do in this space, family, why we're excited about is to be kind of a hybrid of this app moving forward and allowing other altcoins to be involved in that app as well, being user-friendly. So a lot of work. You know, we're not going to see this next week, next month. This is going to take a little bit of time. You know, we could be anywhere from 30 to 90 days at least, maybe 60 to 90 days before we roll this app out based on what I'm hearing from the founder of the company and Nate, the developer of this out of Rochester. So I'm excited about Aegis having this, and more importantly as well. So explain a little bit about some of these other, because we've only got a few minutes left, some of these other companies other than Coinbase.
Other exchanges. Yeah, exactly. So so again, an exchange is really for the mainstream public, right? It's for people like you and I that don't necessarily care to have our own like private key and public key and store that ourselves, because we don't want our house to burn down and destroy the keys, or we just don't want to lose it. So really the exchanges are really the companies that have really helped to kind of create awareness and really allow access to the general public. And so Coinbase is a very basic exchange where you can simply transfer money to them. They provide you what's called a USD or a US dollar wallet. And from there, you can then purchase one of 4 coins. However, there's many different coins that Coinbase doesn't list, and therefore you have to go to other exchanges that do list or offer those coins. And so some other types of exchanges would be Bittrex or Poloniex. You can simply, you could Google like that. But for the most part, the main ones like Gemini and Coinbase, you can only buy a limited number of coins. If you're wanting to gain exposure and access to some of the altcoins or the other coins, you would need to go to a different type of exchange, and most likely you would need to purchase the alt or other coins with Bitcoin. You can't necessarily buy them with US dollars, because a lot of those exchanges that offer these other coins don't support a USD wallet, and therefore you can't really send your US money there and buy coins, if that makes sense. So you can send Bitcoin to them, and then from there you can buy these altcoins.
There you go, which is also driving the value of Bitcoin, which is
yes,
because it's the currency in that crypto space. Fantastic. Well,
correct.
Again, we have
Yep.
9 minutes left, family. The big thing, people ask, okay, I've made some money, but man, can I get it out? Can I cash out anytime, right? For supported countries and payment methods, you can sell or cash out your Bitcoin or other digital currency. So I like to use the rule of thumb typically because of the growth that's here, okay? So let's say you said, hey, I'm going to put $100 in. I like to tell people, look, because if it's my bride or my children or whatever, and they throw $100 in and it grows to $300, I tell them, look, pull out your $100. Or if I call it the penny jar, right? It's a penny jar, and you're investing money that you don't. First off, you should be investing money that if you lose it, it's not going to rock your world, right? So, so in my space, I like it to be 5% of my portfolio. So I say, okay, fine. If I put $100 into the penny jar, which in this case would be Coinbase, and then of course it jumps to $300, so 300% growth, which is somewhat normal in this space over a period of time, then I'll take that $100 out and I'll cash out and throw it into the USD wallet in real time, as fast as I want to, right? If I want to, of course, and so now the money I put in is safeguarded and it's in there. So let's say it's the end of the week, I made some extra money, whatever it is, and I want to throw that in there again. Good, I'll throw another $100 in. It makes $300. I'll take that $100 out. I'll throw it into my USD. So when it's red, meaning when the money is dropping, prime example, based on the Coinbase wallet that I've been monitoring here, if I were to put $10,000 in yesterday, right, that $10,000 would make me $1,000 for that day. That was the actual return for that day. So you got to buy when it's low, sell when it's high, right? And it's okay, now I'm going to do that again and again and again. The USD wallet allows you to cash out, but not all entities allow you to do that. So that's the buyer beware, right? So we're going to go into the next one. Jacob, did you want to elaborate on that at all, or are we good to go to the next one?
No, I mean, just put simply, if anybody's wondering, okay, well, how do I get money, to these places? Like me personally, I just have, I'll just be honest, I have a Coinbase account, I have a Gemini account, and I just have my Wells Fargo account hooked up to it. I transfer money to my USD wallet, and I can transfer it back if I want, just like any other bank would do that.
Awesome. So how much do I need to invest? Coinbase offers automatic Bitcoin buying at regular intervals. For example, say you want to buy $50 of Bitcoins every first or second of the month, right after you get your paycheck. You could set up an auto buy for that amount on Coinbase. So family, once again, the new penny jar, right? Take into account a few caveats before you start using the service if you issue. Well, anyways, the bottom line is you could set up automatically. Obviously everybody's got busy lives, church, family, job. Now you've got your AGS business. We don't want you glued to this thing, but understand there's automated systems as well in place because the industry's obviously advanced that much. So in summary, what I'd like to do is to summarize the above, okay? Cryptocurrency can be thought of as digital currency like PayPal or bank credit, what you use your credit or debt card for, right? Debit card. Okay? There are many other cryptocurrencies beyond Bitcoin, some of which are better defined as digital assets, which we elaborated as well. And of course, unlike bank credit, which represents essentially a controlled and issued fiat currency, meaning the normal currency like a yen or a pesos or US dollar, like the US dollar, cryptocurrency is decentralized and thus not essentially controlled. Next summary is instead of central power controlling cryptocurrency, an algorithm and users themselves control cryptocurrency. You and I control it. The algorithm dictates how transactions work and how new coins are created. Users create peer-to-peer transactions, actions, which are recorded on a public digital ledger, of course, which we call the blockchain. And those who confirm transactions by breaking cryptographic codes are called miners, which we talked about. Mining is how new coins are created. So when one is done, another one is created. Of course, you don't need to know any of that. All you really need to do is set up a Coinbase account and use that to buy, sell Bitcoin, Ether, or Litecoin, because that's the only thing available now is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin. And of course, there's rumor of a Ripple, right? And to send, receive cryptocurrency. So just remember to pay your taxes. So when there's a gain, again, this is not financial advice, but when there's a gain, obviously it's up to you. If I give you $100 cash and you don't talk about it, that's not my play. That's on you. All right. So it works the same way here. So our disclaimer is AGS. AGS was not taking on the role of financial advisor or in any way giving advice. Note that any investment can be a risk. Invest wisely. So Jacob, is there anything you want to add? I know we've got basically 3 minutes left, and any closing remarks?
Yeah, I do just a couple closing remarks. Kind of two things. So if anything that was said is interesting to you, like I said, this is a complex space, but there are some incredible resources out there to really help simplify all of this. And so one resource that I've used a lot, they're called a book. It's called Digital Gold. And Digital Gold is a book that's written by New York reporter Nathaniel Popper. So Digital Gold is probably the best written material that I've ever been exposed to on this whole topic. It's great because it takes you through the history, kind of the growth, and then kind of where we're at today. And I just purchased the audiobook because it's just easier for me to listen to it that way. So Digital Gold by Nathaniel Popper is a great resource if any of this interests you and you just want a good read about Bitcoin and what it is. Number two, CoinDesk.com is pretty much the news channel, the news outlet for anything and everything related to all sorts of digital currency and Bitcoin. And that's CoinDesk.com. So those are really kind of the two sources that I've used a lot. And of course, there's many others, but that's kind of what I use to kind of get started and to understand what all of this means. Because it really, really can get complex. And then lastly, what I would want to say is, as far as investing, again, because, that's not really our role to advise, I would say, because I've heard the word family, used a lot in this phone call, and because I believe that that's sincere in how we all look at each other, people sometimes look at all of this and they're infatuated and fascinated with how much money they can make. And so as a result of that, they try to convince themselves to invest more money than they really should. And then you just ruin all of it for you, because then your wife's going to say, you can't put any more money in that, or vice versa. So really, I mean, just like we apply these principles to everything in life, as we think about this and we think about the future of finance or whatever, as the last slide said, what if you do decide to get into the space, just be very wise, and never, invest more than what you can, because it's not worth it for anybody. So I just want to lastly just thank you so much for having me on this call. I love talking about this. It's very exciting. And it's really been an honor to have this opportunity to just educate, just a few more people about this wonderful thing called digital currency and the future of finance. So I appreciate it again. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jacob. And family, once again, Jacob Gantos, and the financial specialist in that space, more importantly at Silvergate. And I would just want to say a shout out. Thank you again, Jacob, so much. And family, once again, Great to have everybody on today's webinar. Excited. There's more to come. More importantly, hopefully we created some awareness in the field. Get excited about what's going to be happening here, because as it's really about when everybody in this team that's listening right now, you guys, our goal objective is to get you a place where you're financially solvent, driving excess income, and for you to understand to be good stewards of that and where to put it and how to work with it and all of that. And it's important that we grow together in this space. So once again, family, get excited about us onboarding this and a way to monetize this, and more importantly, to have this volume, basically end up in your unit levels and for everybody to win in a very big way. So with that, this does conclude this webinar. Everybody have a blessed evening. Have a great day. And of course, for the leaders around the call, we have our leadership call tomorrow night. Make sure you get on there as well. And we got the promo. And some of you guys are going to come into that promo money, and you're going to want to strategically put it where you need to put it. And that's a lot of the motive here as well. So imagine taking those resources and doing the proper things with them. Take care. God bless. Thank you, everyone, for being on. Give a shout out to your CEO of the company, your founder of the company, your directors and regional directors. You guys rock. And thank you for all that you do. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.